everybody, welcome to BrickVault. My name is Jack, and today we are building all three of the LEGO Star Wars Rogue One buildable figures. We've got a Death Trooper, Jyn Erso, and K2SO. I think I'm going to start with this guy first, actually. Age recommendation for this set is 9 to 14. It is set number 75120 and it has 169 pieces. There's quite a few new parts molded for this particular build, and he has the largest part count of any of the Rogue One buildable figs. Alright, let's get this build underway. Alright, so K2SO is complete. He's looking really good. He stands extremely tall. I was not expecting this figure to be quite as tall as he is, but I'm going to suppose that that makes him accurate to how his character is supposed to be in the movie. I think he stands above the average human. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he is a reprogrammed combat droid or battle droid. I'm not sure exactly what model, but from the looks of it, especially the printing on his shoulder armor, he was bad and now he is good. Now, because the body is so tall and the limbs are really skinny, he is a little bit more wobbly than your average buildable fig, but that doesn't mean he's not well balanced. That's supposed to be the position for the sort of Matrix Neo bullet dodging move. Apologies if it doesn't look that way, but here he is balancing on one foot, and you can even get this guy into a handstand. That being said, it took quite a while to get him into that proper position, but this is mostly just to illustrate that with enough time and patience, you can do a lot of really cool versatile poses with your buildable figure. Let's take a look at some of the close-ups. Those curved pieces that make up the chest are first time molded in black for this set, and those two stickers you see are the only stickers in this set. Both the mold and the printing detail for K2SO's head is by far the most high quality piece in the set, and it is also another example of just some of the nicer pieces that LEGO is making in general these days. We've got some really finely detailed scrape marks. It looks like some of that black paint is chipped away. The white of the eyes is all the way in there, very deep, and the intricacy of that molding by the jaw is a certain kind of detailed molding that we've only seen in LEGO very recently. Heck, even when you compare them to the minifigure version, we've also got some very nice detailing on a much smaller scale. Alright, what else is there left to point out? Oh yeah, the arms are super skinny, maybe too skinny, I don't really know. I haven't really seen this guy in action in the movie yet. And speaking of action, this figure does have an action function. That gray button, so to speak, on the back of the figure has a couple of little joint connections, and there's somewhat of a spring function underneath there, and that allows you to swing the arms from side to side, or heck, you can swing the arms forward both at the same time. We had a similar function like this from a previous Bionicle set from not that long ago. It's kind of hard to work with just one hand, so maybe it doesn't look particularly excellent when I do it, but it certainly works well enough. And considering the movie is not out yet as of making this review, I think by mere artifact of having this function means that we're bound to see K2SO get into some hand-to-hand fighting. Certainly look forward to seeing that, and let's move on. Alright, so moving on, let's build the Death Trooper next. Alright, so here is the Death Trooper. He's looking really awesome, and I might have forgotten to mention, so let me just say really quick, he is set number 75121, and he is 106 pieces. Most of the parts that make up this guy are all black. He has a couple of gray internal pieces, and just like all buildable figures, he is pretty posable. Now, he looks pretty good just in his regular standing position, and his balance isn't thrown off by moving his arms anywhere. He can stand on one foot, and of course, he can have some dynamic battle poses as well. Alright, let's check out the coolest part. This is an awesome mold that makes up his helmet. It's actually kind of a two-piece mold. Underneath there is a layer of green plastic, and that actually shows through with the visor, which is different from the printing for the Death Trooper minifigs. Their visors were just black. But other than that, you can see there's a really high degree of detail within the mold itself, and this definitely makes for one menacing looking trooper. Now zooming out a bit further, you can see some flexible plastic that's supposed to make up what is a cloth pauldron on the left hand side of him, and that same piece wraps around where you can attach 3, I believe, ammo clips. I'm not really sure what those are, but they're attached in kind of a nice way. There's some stud work there, and those are original prints on those flat tiles in the front. You look a little bit closer towards that chest piece, here is a better look at the print. Wonderful print for that chest, and something tells me that piece can easily be repurposed for some sort of spaceship mock in the future. Earlier you saw him posed with an alternate blaster pistol. This is a closer look at that. It just kind of fits into one of the sides of the legs. And here is a closer look at his blaster rifle, a very similar design to what we've seen from other buildable figs, and we have that trigger that shoots off the single red stud shot. And the last thing I'm pointing out really quick is that there is a custom print on this shoulder piece, but because we've got a cloth shoulder pauldron on the other side, they didn't bother to put a custom print on the other shoulder. Alright, here is the whole thing one more time. Awesome Death Trooper. This is probably going to be the most popular of the buildable figs from Rogue One. That's just a guess of mine, but let's move on. Alright, let's build Jyn Erso now. Alright, and the last buildable fig here is Jyn Erso. Now, there are definitely aspects of this build that I do think work pretty well, but I gotta say, in general, the proportions of this figure do not match up nearly as well as the other ones. The legs just feel a little bit too long and the neck perhaps too short. The proportions themselves actually aren't that different from the Death Trooper that we got. Here the arms are a little bit shorter, and the Death Trooper's mold for the helmet is just larger. But with that extra build-up for the shoulders and added height with the head mold, the Death Trooper does look just a little bit more proportional, and it leaves this Jyn Erso fig just looking a little bit strange. Like all the buildable figs, she is pretty well balanced and she does have some nice posability to her. And definitely one of the big positives, though, is the build for her weapon. It looks a lot nicer than I think any of the other ones. I think this is my favorite weapon build. And she has one of the coolest triggers. All you do is pull back the scope, and hopefully don't knock your figure over at the same time. But all you do is pull back the scope, and it launches out a spring-loaded shot. But generally, the build for the barrel and the stock on this gun make it look just a little bit more realistic, and it works well with this character. This is a custom mold that makes up the body of Jyn Erso. The print is great, though I don't think it is quite as diverse or easily usable in other mocks. You'd have to get very creative, I think, but it certainly works well with the character. Now, this figure does have an action function. We've seen it before. You simply turn the knob and the arms go back and forth. And if you're feeling super ambitious, yes, you can make the arms go in a full 360 degrees. Now, when she's holding her rifle, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Perhaps you could get a running motion out of her this way. And here we are looking at the motion from behind, and you might notice a couple of swinging batons that are hanging off of her back. Now, this is what the motion I think was really intended for. You can take the two batons right off the back. They're kind of the holder spots there. And when the figure has them in hand and you get that sort of proper motion going back and forth swinging the arms, you've got a pretty decent, I'm not going to say nunchuck action, because that's really not how nunchucks work, but we do have some cool flailing batons. And also don't knock your figure over. The batons fit on very loosely, they swing around extremely easily, and they make for a pretty decent melee weapon. Now, here is a closer look at Jyn Erso's custom-made head mold. The printing is excellent, the molding is excellent. I especially like that detail for the sort of hair sticking out of the side of the cap, but it doesn't really matter, at least to me, how well they make the molds look. When they are human faces on these buildable figs, they never quite look as good as something that looks robotic or is just a pure helmet. Either way, this mold does look better than Luke Skywalker's. So with that, we're done with the review, and here are all three of the buildable figures together. Here you can very clearly see the height difference between all three of the figures. K2SO is certainly quite a bit larger than the other two, and I'm definitely pretty happy with the way this first wave turned out. For the next wave, assuming there is one, I'm definitely looking forward most for the Shore Trooper. Alright, that is it for this episode. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I have left links in the video description below if you want to buy any of these sets right here. And if you enjoy our content, remember, you can always like, subscribe, do what you want to do. We will see you next time at BrickVault.